When immortal wolf, Lord Cale Thornwick, encounters a fearless midwife with the rare gift of sight, their combined magic saves a cursed birth that hasn't succeeded in 2 centuries, but their growing bond threatens to shatter the ancient curse that keeps his pack alive. As Alara's healing touch awakens hope he thought long dead, Cale faces an impossible choice. Will he risk everything he's sworn to protect for a love that could either free them all or destroy them forever? Blood dripped from the stone steps as Cale climbed toward his tower room. The red drops weren't his. They belonged to the messenger who'd brought terrible news from the village below. His golden eyes burned with anger as he pushed open the heavy wooden door. 300 years of the same nightmare. 300 winters of watching his people suffer while he stayed trapped in this castle like a bird in a cage. The curse made him live forever. But what kind of life was this? Outside his window, snow fell on the village of Ravenshollow. Smoke rose from chimneys where families gathered for dinner. Normal families who grew old together, had children, and died peacefully in their beds. Not like his pack, who stayed young forever but could never leave this place. Cale touched the cold glass with his fingertips. Down in the courtyard, his pack members moved around like restless animals. They all looked the same as they had 50 years ago. Strong, healthy, and completely stuck. Marcus, his second in command, knocked on the door. "My lord, there's been another problem in the village." "What now?" Cale didn't turn around. He'd heard enough bad news for one day. 3 more children born dead this month. The mothers are getting scared. They're saying the curse is spreading. Cale's hands turned into fists. The curse wasn't spreading, it was getting stronger. Every year, fewer babies survived in the lands around his castle. The magic that kept him and his pack alive was slowly killing everyone else. "Send gold to the families," he said quietly. "Gold won't bring back their children, my lord." "It's all I can give them." Cale finally turned around. Marcus looked just as young as he had when the curse first hit them, 25 years old forever, with dark hair and worried brown eyes. "Unless you want me to lift the curse and kill us all." Marcus shook his head quickly. "No, my lord. We've talked about this. The pack stands with you." But Cale saw the doubt in his friend's eyes. How long before his people decided 30 lives weren't worth all the death around them? How long before they asked him to end it all? A howl echoed from the forest beyond the village. Then another. His pack was calling to him, their wolf voices full of sadness and frustration. They felt trapped, too. Cale walked to his desk and picked up a letter that had arrived that morning. The paper was soft and smelled like herbs. A woman's handwriting covered the page in neat, small letters. "Lord Thornwick," he read aloud. "My name is Alara Brightwater. I'm a midwife from the eastern provinces. I've heard about the problems in your lands. I might be able to help. I'll arrive before the next full moon. E. Brightwater." "A midwife?" Marcus raised his eyebrows. "What can she do that our healers can't?" Cale studied the letter again. Something about the way she wrote made his wolf sit up and pay attention. The ink had a strange shimmer to it, like it was mixed with something magical. "Maybe nothing," he said. "But she's coming anyway." That night, Cale stood on his balcony and watched the village below. Lights went out one by one as people went to bed. Soon, only his castle stayed awake. His pack never slept well. The curse made them too restless. He thought about the midwife's letter. Why would a stranger want to come to a cursed land? What did she really want? Most people stayed far away from Ravenshollow once they heard the stories. The wind brought him new scents. Pine trees from the forest, smoke from the village fires, and something else, something that made his wolf pace inside his chest. A scent that didn't belong here yet. Someone was coming. Someone important. Cale gripped the stone railing until his knuckles went white. For 300 years, he'd protected his people by staying away from others. He'd learned not to hope for anything beyond keeping his pack alive. But tonight felt different. Tonight felt like change was coming, whether he wanted it or not. In the distance, an owl called out across the snowy landscape. Its voice sounded almost like a woman singing. Cale's enhanced hearing caught something else mixed in with the owl's cry. the sound of horse hooves on the frozen road. The midwife was coming early. Cale's heart beat faster. He hadn't felt excited about anything in decades. The emotion scared him more than any enemy he'd ever faced in battle. What if she could really help? What if she made things worse? What if she was just another person who would look at him with fear and disgust once she learned what he really was? The wolf inside him didn't care about those questions. It wanted to meet this woman who smelled like herbs and magic. It wanted to know why her letter made his hands shake when he held it. Down in the courtyard, other pack members had noticed the approaching visitor too. They stood in small groups, talking in quiet voices. Some looked hopeful. Others looked worried. Change always brought danger for people like them. Cale closed his eyes and tried to push down the hope growing in his chest. Hope was dangerous. Hope made you careless. Hope got people killed. But when he opened his eyes and looked toward the road again, the hope was still there, burning bright and stubborn, like a candle flame that refused to go out in the wind. The midwife was coming to his cursed castle, and somehow, Cale knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The great wooden doors of Ravenshallow Castle burst open with a bang that echoed through the stone halls. A woman walked in like she owned the place, shaking snow from her dark green cloak. Her copper-colored hair caught the firelight as she looked around the enormous room without any fear at all. Cale stood at the top of the stairs, watching her. Most visitors trembled when they first saw his castle. The walls were covered with weapons from old battles. Tapestries showed scenes of wolves hunting under full moons. Everything about this place screamed danger. But this woman just set down her leather bag and started taking off her gloves like she was visiting a friend's house. "You must be Lord Thornwick," she called up to him. Her voice was clear and strong. "I'm Elora Brightwater. We need to talk." Cale walked down the stairs slowly. He wanted to get a good look at her before they spoke. She was smaller than he'd expected, maybe reaching his shoulder if she stood close. But the way she held herself made her seem much bigger. Her green eyes met his without looking away. That surprised him. Most humans couldn't look directly at him for very long. His golden wolf eyes made them nervous. "You came early," he said when he reached the bottom of the stairs. The situation sounded urgent. She picked up her bag again. "Where's the patient?" "Patient?" Cale frowned. "I didn't say anyone was sick." "You didn't have to." Elora tilted her head like she was listening to something he couldn't hear. "This whole place feels like a wound that won't heal. Someone here is dying, aren't they?" Cale's wolf stirred uneasily. How could she know that? "What makes you think?" "Because I'm not just a midwife," she interrupted. "I have what some people call the sight. I can see things that others can't. And right now, I can see magical sickness all around this castle." The sight. Cale had heard stories about humans born with that gift, but he'd never met one. People with the sight could see through supernatural tricks and lies. They could also see magical problems that regular people missed. "If you have the sight," he said carefully, "then you know what I am, a werewolf. Probably a very old one." She didn't sound scared or disgusted. Just matter of fact, like she was talking about the weather. "You're also cursed. The magic around you feels twisted and angry." Cale couldn't help staring at her. In 300 years, no human had ever spoken to him so calmly about what he was. Most people run away when they figure that out. "Most people can't see what I see." Elora walked closer to him. "The curse isn't just affecting you, is it? It's hurting innocent people too. How did you know about the babies?" Word travels fast when children start dying in unusual ways. Her green eyes got sad. "I've delivered over 1,000 babies in my life, Lord Thornwick. I've never lost more than a handful. But I've heard that here in Ravenshallow, hardly any babies survive their first year." Cale's chest felt tight. "It's not something I can control." "Maybe not, but it is something we might be able to fix." She set her bag down again and crossed her arms. "That's why I'm here. I think your curse is poisoning the land around your castle. And I think I know how to stop it." "Impossible." Cale shook his head. "Wizards, priests, and scholars have tried for 3 centuries. The curse can't be broken without killing everyone it touches. They were probably trying to destroy the curse, Elara said. I want to try something different. What if we don't break it? What if we just change it? Change it how? Elara smiled, and something about that smile made Kale's wolf sit up and pay attention. By giving it something else to do. Curses are like rivers, they need somewhere to flow. Right now, yours is flowing into death and isolation. But rivers can be redirected. That's not how magic works. Says who? The same people who couldn't fix your problem for 300 years? She picked up her bag again. Look, I didn't travel for 3 weeks through snow and ice to argue with you. I came to help. Either you want that help, or you don't. Kale stared at her. She was either completely crazy or completely brilliant. Maybe both. Why would you risk your life for strangers? Because that's what I do. Her voice got softer. I help bring new life into the world. And right now, your curse is stopping that from happening. I can't just ignore that and go home. Something in her tone made Kale's heart beat faster. When was the last time someone had wanted to help him instead of asking for something in return? Even if what you're suggesting was possible, he said, it would be dangerous. Curse magic fights back. When you try to change it, you could die. I could die crossing the street in any city, Elara replied. At least this death would mean something. Kale found himself smiling for the first time in months. This woman was definitely crazy. But she was also brave, in a way that reminded him of his pack. The kind of courage that came from caring more about others than about yourself. All right, he said. Let's say I believe you can redirect my curse. What would you need to do it? First, I need to understand exactly how the curse works. That means you need to tell me the whole story. No leaving out important details because you're embarrassed or scared. Kale winced. The story of how he'd gotten cursed wasn't something he liked to talk about. It's not a pleasant tale. I didn't expect it to be. Elara's eyes were kind, but determined. But if we're going to work together, we need complete honesty between us. Can you do that? Complete honesty. Kale hadn't been completely honest with anyone in decades. The idea terrified him almost as much as it appealed to him. And if I tell you everything, and you decide the risk is too great? He asked. Then I'll tell you that, and we'll figure out what to do next. She held out her hand to him. Partners? Kale looked down at her small, strong hand. If he shook it, he'd be trusting a stranger with not just his life, but the lives of everyone in his pack. If she was wrong about being able to help, they could all end up dead. But if she was right, they could all end up free. Kale reached out and took her hand in his. The moment their skin touched, something electric passed between them. Her eyes widened in surprise, and his wolf practically purred with satisfaction. Partners, he agreed, wondering what he was getting himself into. The baby's cry pierced the night like a silver blade through silk. Elara's hands shook as she placed the tiny shifter in his mother's arms, but her exhaustion vanished when she saw Kale's face. The mighty wolf lord was crying. In 300 years, I've never heard that sound in these walls, he whispered, touching the baby's tiny fist. New life. Hope. But their celebration died when Marcus burst through the chamber doors. Kale's second-in-command looked terrified. My lord, riders approach from the east. Church soldiers, maybe 50 strong. They carry silver weapons. Elara felt ice spread through her chest. She'd heard stories of what church soldiers did to shifters. How long do we have? Dawn. Maybe less. Marcus glanced at the new mother, still weak from birth. They can't know about the baby. If they discover a successful shifter birth, Kale's expression hardened into something dangerous. They'll want to study how it was done. Use that knowledge to create weapons. His golden eyes found Elara's. You need to leave. Now. I'm not abandoning you. She stood despite her tired legs. Besides, where would I go? They've probably surrounded the castle. A howl echoed from the courtyard below. Then, another. Soon the entire pack was singing their warning song, voices blending in harmony that made the stone walls vibrate. But underneath the beautiful sound, Elara heard something else. Fear. "They've never faced church soldiers," Kale explained, reading her expression. "Silver burns us. Holy water makes us sick. And their leader," he paused, jaw tightening, "Captain Aldrich Blackwood. He's killed more shifters than anyone alive." Elara's blood chilled. She knew that name from whispered stories. Blackwood was the church's best hunter, a man who showed no mercy to anything with supernatural blood. "There's something else," Marcus said quietly. "They have a witch with them, someone who can track magic. That's how they found us so quickly after the birth." Kyle cursed in a language Elara didn't recognize. "The baby's magic is still fresh, still calling out. Every shifter within 100 miles can sense it." "Then we use that," Elara said suddenly. Both men stared at her. "The baby's magic is powerful, right? What if we could turn that power into a shield instead of a beacon?" "That's not how magic works," Marcus protested. "Healing magic does." Elara moved to her bag, pulling out small glass bottles filled with herbs. "When I delivered the baby, our magic mixed together, yours and mine. Kale, that connection is still there. I can feel it." She was right. Kale could sense her presence in his mind, like warmth on a cold day. "What are you thinking?" "A hiding spell. Not to make us invisible, but to make us seem ordinary, human." Her fingers traced patterns in the air as she spoke. "If I can weave your pack magic with my healing gift, we might be able to fool their witch." "Might?" Kale stepped closer, his wolf scenting her determination mixed with fear. "It's never been tried before, and it will take all of us working together." She looked between the two men. "Every wolf in the pack will need to trust me completely. Let me guide their magic, while you anchor the spell with your power." Marcus shook his head. "My lord, it's too risky. If the spell fails while they're inside our walls, if we fight them directly, people die," Kale said firmly. "My pack, maybe innocent humans in the village below. This way, we have a chance to avoid bloodshed." Another howl rose from the courtyard, this one closer, urgent. "They're moving faster than expected," Marcus reported, listening to the wolf song. "We have maybe an hour." Elara was already moving, gathering supplies. "I'll need salt, silver, dust if you have it, and something that belongs to each pack member. Hair, clothing, anything with their scent." "I'll gather the pack," Kale decided. "Meet us in the Great Hall." But as they prepared to leave the birthing chamber, the new mother grabbed Elara's wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone who'd just given birth. "The baby," she whispered. "If your spell fails, if they take us, promise me you'll protect her." Elara's throat tightened. "I promise, but it won't come to that." The woman's eyes held ancient sadness. "I've lived through 5 raids, midwife. Church soldiers don't negotiate. They don't show mercy. If Captain Blackwood is leading them." She squeezed Elara's hand harder. "Promise me you'll run. If things go bad, don't let them take you too." "I won't leave you," Elara said firmly. "You will if I order it," Kyle said from the doorway, having overheard. "Your gift is too rare to risk. The world needs healers like you." Before Elara could argue, shouts erupted from the castle's entrance. Heavy boots on stone steps. The sound of steel being drawn. "They're early," Marcus breathed, fear making his voice crack. Through the narrow window, Elara saw torches moving up the mountain path. Dozens of them, like angry stars fallen to earth. At the front rode a figure in black armor, his silver sword gleaming in the torchlight. Captain Blackwood had arrived. "Change of plans," Gale said, his voice dropping into the commanding tone that made even the strongest wolves obey. "Marcus, take the new mother and baby to the hidden passages below. Stay there, no matter what happens." "My lord." "That's an order." Kale's eyes blazed gold as his wolf rose closer to the surface. "Elara, we try your spell. But if it fails, if they break through," he handed her a small silver dagger. "Use this on yourself before you let them take you alive." The weapon felt cold and heavy in her palm. Kale, I am. Promise me. His hands cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. I've seen what Blackwood does to magical humans. Death is kinder. Before she could answer, the main gate exploded inward with a boom that shook the entire castle. Splinters of ancient wood flew everywhere, and through the smoking hole came church soldiers in gleaming armor. Wolf Lord Kale Thornwick. Captain Blackwood's voice echoed through the corridors like thunder. By order of the Holy Church, you are commanded to surrender yourself and your pack for examination and cleansing. Kale's pack began shifting around them, human forms melting into wolf shapes as their fear and anger took control. But Alara grabbed Kale's arm before he could change too. The spell, she urged. We have to try it now, while they're still outside the Great Hall. His golden eyes searched her face. Are you certain? No, but I'm certain we can't fight 50 soldiers with silver weapons. She smiled, trying to look braver than she felt. Besides, you promised to trust me completely, remember? For a heartbeat, Kale looked like the frightened young man he must have been before the curse. Then his expression hardened into determination. Tell me what to do. Everyone hold completely still, Alara whispered, as church soldiers' voices grew louder in the hallway outside. The entire pack had gathered in the great hall, 30 wolves in human form standing in a perfect circle around her and Kale. If even one person moves during the spell, we all die. Captain Blackwood's heavy footsteps stopped just outside the massive wooden doors. I smell fear, Wolf Lord, and something else. Magic. Fresh magic. His laugh was like metal scraping stone. Did you really think you could hide new cubs from me? Alara's hands trembled as she sprinkled salt in ancient patterns on the floor. The pack's scent filled her nose, wild and dangerous, but also protective. These weren't monsters. They were a family trying to survive. Focus on being human, she told them softly. Remember what it felt like before the curse. Remember choosing to be gentle instead of fierce. One of the younger wolves whimpered. His control was slipping, canine teeth starting to show. Kale caught his eye across the circle and somehow, without words, steadied him. That's it, Alara breathed. Hold on to each other. She placed her hands on Kale's chest, feeling his heart pound like war drums. His power rushed into her. Centuries of strength and leadership and protective love. But also fear. He was just as scared as the rest of them. Now, she said, and spoke words in the old language her grandmother had taught her. Words for hiding, for blending, for being overlooked. The magic rose around them like morning mist. Alara felt each pack member's essence touch her mind. Their memories of being human, their dreams of freedom, their fierce loyalty to each other. She wove it all together with her healing gift, creating something completely new, a spell that didn't just hide them, but transformed them. The great doors exploded open. Captain Blackwood strode in, wearing black armor, decorated with silver crosses. His pale eyes swept the room, taking in what appeared to be a gathering of ordinary villagers, farmers and merchants and craftsmen, huddled together in fear of the church soldiers. Where is the wolf pack? He demanded. An elderly man stepped forward, except Alara knew it was really Marcus, somehow appearing decades older than his true age. Please, sir, we're just village folk. We came to the castle, seeking shelter from the storm. Blackwood's witch appeared at his shoulder. She was a thin woman with dead eyes, wearing robes covered in silver symbols. Her fingers traced patterns in the air as she tested the magic around them. I sense ordinary humans, Captain. Frightened, but not supernatural. She frowned, clearly confused. But there was powerful magic here moments ago. A birth blessing, I think. Impossible. Blackwood grabbed the fake Marcus by the throat. I tracked wolf magic to this exact location. Where are they hiding? We don't know about any wolves, Marcus gasped, staying perfectly in character. Alara felt sweat beading on her forehead as she maintained the spell. It was like holding water in a net, possible, but requiring every bit of her concentration. Around the circle, she sensed other pack members struggling too. Their wolf natures wanted to protect Marcus, to fight back against the soldiers threatening their friend. "Hold on," Kale's mental voice whispered to all of them. "Just a little longer." But then disaster struck. A church soldier kicked over Elara's herb bag, spilling bottles across the stone floor. One shattered, releasing the sharp scent of wolfsbane, hevet, a plant deadly to shifters. The youngest pack member, barely 18, inhaled the toxic fumes and doubled over coughing. As his control slipped, his human disguise began to flicker. Golden eyes flashed in his pale face. His fingernails started growing into claws. "There," the witch pointed directly at him. "That one carries wolf magic." Everything happened at once. Blackwood drew his silver sword. The disguised pack members started shifting back to their wolf forms as the spell collapsed. And Elara made a desperate choice. She threw herself in front of the young wolf just as Blackwood's blade came down. Silver bit deep into her shoulder, sending liquid fire through her entire body. She screamed, feeling the blessed metal burn like acid. But her sacrifice bought them precious seconds. Kale roared with rage that shook dust from the ceiling beams. His human form exploded outward as he shifted into a massive black wolf, larger than any natural animal. He leaped over the circle, jaws aimed at Blackwood's throat. The church captain barely got his shield up in time. Blessed steel met supernatural fury in a shower of sparks. Around them, the rest of the pack completed their transformations, becoming a wall of fangs and claws between the soldiers and their wounded healer. "Fall back!" Blackwood shouted to his men. "Standard wolf formation, holy water, and silver nets." But something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking the soldiers directly, the pack surrounded Elara's fallen form. Even wounded and bleeding silver poison, she was still trying to weave magic, not to hide them anymore, but to heal herself, so she could help them fight. "Stubborn woman," Kale growled in his wolf voice, nuzzling her uninjured side. "Save your strength, not leaving you," she gasped, her face pale but determined. That's when the real battle began. Church soldiers advanced with silver-tipped spears and nets blessed by priests. The pack fought with supernatural speed and strength, but they were outnumbered and trapped in an enclosed space. Every silver wound weakened them further. Marcus, back in his true form, tackled two soldiers but took a blessed crossbow bolt through his leg. One of the female wolves leaped at the witch, only to be thrown backward by a blast of holy magic that left her fur smoking. "Enough!" Blackwood raised his hand, and his soldiers stopped their advance. "I offer terms, Wolf Lord. Surrender yourself, and I'll let your pack live as my hunting dogs. Refuse, and I'll put every one of them down like rabid animals." Kale, still in wolf form, stalked toward the church captain. His golden eyes burned with 3 centuries of suppressed rage. But before he could attack, Elara's voice cut through the tension. "There's a third option," she said, struggling to stand, despite her silver wound. Everyone turned to stare at her. Soldiers, wolves, and their leaders alike. "Captain Blackwood hunts monsters, right? Things that threaten innocent people." She swayed, but kept her voice steady. "What if I could prove these wolves aren't monsters at all?" "Impossible," the witch hissed. "All shifters are abominations against the natural order." "Then test us," Elara challenged. "You have holy water, blessed silver, sanctified ground. Use them all. If we're truly evil, your weapons will destroy us completely. But if we're just people trying to survive..." She left the sentence hanging, watching hope and fear war across Blackwood's scarred face. "And if you're wrong?" he asked quietly. "If I test you and discover you're as monstrous as every other shapeshifter I've killed?" Elara met his eyes without flinching. "Then you'll have your proof, and you can do whatever you think is right." The great hall fell silent, except for the crackle of torches and the labored breathing of wounded fighters. 30 supernatural lives hung in the balance, waiting for a man who'd built his reputation on killing their kind to make a choice that could change everything. Blackwood's hand tightened on his sword hilt. "Very well," he said finally. "We test." Thunder crashed overhead as Alara ran through the castle halls, her heart pounding like a war drum. Something was wrong, terribly, dangerously wrong. The magical bond she shared with Kale screamed warnings through her blood, pulling her toward the tower where he spent his darkest nights. She burst through the heavy wooden door to find him on his knees, golden eyes, wild with pain. Dark veins spread across his neck like poison, and his hands shook as he gripped an ornate silver blade. "Stay back," he growled, his voice deeper than usual. The wolf was taking over. "The curse is fighting the changes. It wants blood." "Put the knife down," Alara said softly, stepping closer despite every instinct telling her to run. "We can figure this out together." "You don't understand." Kale's voice cracked with 300 years of buried anguish. "Every time someone gets close to breaking this curse, it demands a price. My first love, Catherine, I thought I could save her from the war. Instead, she died in my arms while enemy soldiers burned our village." Alara's breath caught. This was the pain he'd hidden behind his lord's mask, the guilt that fed the curse's power. "After Catherine, I swore never to love again," he continued, the blade trembling in his grip. "But then came Maria, a healer like you. The curse took her with fever. Then Elena, who tried to help my pack killed by bandits the night before our wedding. Every woman I've loved has died because I was selfish enough to want happiness." "That's not your fault," Alara whispered, tears burning her eyes. "Isn't it?" His laugh was bitter as winter wind. "The curse feeds on my connections to others. The stronger the love, the crueler the death. It's already starting with you. I can feel it hunting, planning. That fever you caught while healing the pack children? That wasn't natural sickness. It was the curse testing your strength." The room spun around Alara. She remembered how weak she'd felt, how the illness had seemed to drain not just her body, but her very life force. But she'd survived barely. "So you'll kill yourself instead?" she asked, anger replacing fear. "That's your solution? Leave your pack without their anchor. Leave me without—" "Without what?" Kale's eyes blazed. "A cursed monster who brings death to everything he touches? Without the man I love." The words burst from her heart before she could stop them. "Without my partner, my equal, my other half." The confession hung between them like a bridge over an abyss. Kale stared at her, the knife slowly lowering. "You can't love me," he said brokenly. "I won't let you die for my mistakes." Too late. Alara closed the distance between them, her hands covering his on the blade's handle. "I already love you. I loved you when you held that newborn like precious crystal. I loved you when you shared your strength to heal sick children. I loved you when you showed me your scars and trusted me with your pain, Alara. And I love you enough to fight this curse instead of running from it." She pulled the knife from his grip and tossed it aside. "We're not powerless victims, Kale. We're a healer and a wolf lord with magic that works better together than apart. We proved that during the birth, during the healing. Why are we acting like we can't win?" Kale's hands cupped her face, thumb tracing the determined line of her jaw. "Because I can't lose you too. I won't survive it. Then don't lose me." She pressed her forehead to his. "Trust me. Trust us." Outside, lightning illuminated the pack gathering in the courtyard. They'd sensed their lord's distress, and their worried howls echoed through the stone walls. But beneath their fear, Alara heard something else, hope. They believed in their alpha, in the bond he'd found with her. "The pack needs you strong," she said. "Not just as their leader, but as someone who believes in tomorrow. How can they have faith if you've given up?" Kale's arms wrapped around her, pulling her against his chest where she could feel his heart beating strong, steady, alive. "What do you need me to do?" "Help me research this curse properly. Not just its history, but its structure. Magic always has rules, even dark magic. If we understand how it works, we can find its weakness." They spent the next 3 hours in the castle's library. Ancient books spread across oak tables, while candles burned low. Elara's gift let her see the magical patterns described in dusty tomes, while Kael's centuries of experience helped interpret the oldest texts. "Here," Elara said suddenly, pointing to a passage in a leather-bound journal. "This talks about curses that feed on guilt and isolation. They grow stronger when the victim believes they deserve punishment." "Which explains why it's lasted 300 years, Kael muttered. "I've been feeding it with my own shame." "But look at this part." Elara traced the faded ink with her finger. "The curse can be starved if the victim finds genuine forgiveness, not just from others, but from themselves." Kael was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. Self-forgiveness. The one thing I've never been able to give myself. "Maybe because you've been trying to carry everyone else's burdens alone." Elara closed the book and turned to face him. "What if forgiveness isn't something you have to earn through suffering? What if it's something you can choose?" Before he could answer, a commotion erupted in the courtyard below. Shouts and the clash of steel echoed off stone walls. Kael was on his feet instantly, every instinct screaming danger. "Church soldiers," he said grimly, recognizing the battle cries. "They've come for me." Through the window, they could see torches surrounding the castle. Armed men in holy symbols advanced on the main gate, while pack members snarled from the battlements. "They'll demand I surrender," Kael said, already reaching for his sword. "If I refuse, they'll attack everyone here. Innocent people will die. And if you surrender, they'll kill me, and the curse will kill my pack." His jaw set with grim determination. "Either way, the people I love pay the price." Elara grabbed his arm before he could leave. "Wait, what if there's a third option? Such as?" Her eyes blazed with sudden inspiration. "What if we use their attack to break the curse? You said it feeds on isolation and guilt. But fighting alongside people who choose to stand with you, that's the opposite of isolation. And protecting them instead of blaming yourself for danger, that's the opposite of guilt." Kael stared at her, understanding dawning. "You want to use the battle as a ritual. Not just any battle. A battle where you finally accept that love is worth fighting for. Not something to feel guilty about." She gripped his hands. "The curse expects you to sacrifice yourself to protect others. Instead, we fight together. We win together. We prove that connection makes us stronger, not weaker." Outside, the church soldiers began their charge. The great hall of Ravenshallow exploded into chaos as church soldiers smashed through barricaded doors. Steel rang against steel, while wolves snarled and men shouted holy war cries. But in the center of the storm, Elara worked frantically at a ritual circle drawn in silver and salt. "The binding must be complete before midnight," she called to Kael over the noise of battle. "When the moon reaches its peak, the curse is strongest. That's when we strike back." Kael parried a silver blade aimed at his heart, his enhanced speed making him blur between opponents. "How much more time?" 10 minutes. Elara placed the last candle, her hands steady despite the violence around them. "But I need something personal from you, something that represents your guilt." A crossbow bolt whistled past Kael's ear as he fought his way back to her. "What kind of something? The thing you blame yourself for most." Without hesitation, Kael pulled the silver locket from his neck, the one with Catherine's portrait inside. For 3 centuries, he'd worn it like a chain of shame, a reminder of his first great failure. Now he pressed it into Elara's palm. "This represents everyone I couldn't save," he said. "Perfect." Elara placed the locket at the circle's center. "Now we need Lord Thornwick." A voice boomed across the hall. The fighting paused as soldiers parted to reveal their leader, Commander Marcus Ashford, great-nephew of the woman whose father had cast the original curse. He was young, barely 25, with Catherine's dark hair and her father's burning eyes. "I claim holy right of challenge," Marcus declared, his blessed sword gleaming in the firelight. "Single combat to end this evil once and for all." Kael's pack growled from the shadows, ready to tear the young commander apart. But Kael raised his hand, stopping them. "I accept," he said simply. "No!" Elara grabbed his arm. The ritual isn't complete. If you die now, I won't die. Kale's eyes met hers with absolute certainty. Not anymore. I finally understand what you've been trying to tell me. He stepped into the circle with Marcus, silver and blessed steel catching candlelight. But instead of attacking, Kale began to speak. Your great-aunt Catherine was the bravest person I ever knew, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. When enemy soldiers attacked our village, she didn't run. She stayed to help evacuate the children, even knowing it meant her death. Marcus's sword wavered slightly. You killed her. No, I failed to save her. Kale's admission rang with 3 centuries of pain. I was young, arrogant, convinced I could protect everyone I loved through strength alone. When Catherine died in my arms, I blamed myself. When your great-grandfather cursed me, I accepted it as justice. Because you deserved it, Marcus snarled. Because I thought I deserved it, Kale's voice grew stronger. But spending 300 years carrying that guilt taught me something. Blame doesn't honor the dead. Action does. Catherine didn't die so I could spend eternity punishing myself. She died protecting innocent people. The question isn't whether I deserve forgiveness. It's whether I'll honor her sacrifice by protecting innocence today. Around them, the ritual circle began to glow. Alara's magic responded to Kale's words, recognizing truth that cut deeper than any blade. Marcus raised his sword with shaking hands. Pretty words won't wash away your sins. You're right, Kale agreed. But they're not my sins to wash away anymore. He dropped his weapon. The hall erupted in shocked gasps. Pack members started forward, but Kale's alpha command held them back. I spent 3 centuries believing love made me selfish, he continued, facing Marcus's blessed blade without flinching. That caring for someone meant I'd fail them when they needed me most. But love isn't selfish, fear is. And I'm done being afraid. Marcus's sword trembled at Kale's throat. This is a trick. No trick, just truth. Kale's eyes found Alara's across the circle. I love that woman more than my own life. I love my pack like family. I love this community we've built together. And instead of seeing that love as weakness, I choose to see it as strength. The curse fought back with visible fury. Dark veins spread across Kale's skin as 3 centuries of magical bondage tried to reassert control. The pain drove him to his knees, but his voice never wavered. The curse wants me to die alone, hated, carrying everyone's pain as punishment for my failures, he gasped. But I refuse. I choose connection over isolation. I choose love over guilt. I choose to trust that the people I care about are strong enough to face danger beside me instead of hiding behind my sacrifice. Marcus's blade pressed against Kale's neck, drawing a thin line of blood. You think noble words will save you? I think love already has. The ritual circle blazed like a star. Ilara's magic poured through the silver lines, but instead of coming from her alone, it drew power from every person in the hall pack members, castle staff, even some of the younger church soldiers who'd begun to doubt their commander's righteousness. This is impossible, Marcus breathed, staring at the light. Love usually is, Ilara said softly. She stood within the blazing circle, her hands raised to channel the collective power. Your great-grandfather cursed Kale because he thought isolation would teach him responsibility. But real responsibility means trusting others to choose their own battles. The curse shrieked an inhuman sound that made everyone in the hall cover their ears. Dark magic writhed through the air like living smoke, seeking something to destroy. It lunged at Marcus first, recognizing him as a descendant of its creator. Kale moved without thinking. Despite his own pain, despite the blade at his throat, he threw himself between the curse and the young commander. Dark magic slammed into him instead, trying to tear his soul apart. You fool! Marcus caught Kale as he fell. Why save me? Because. Kale's voice was weak but determined. Because you're not your great-grandfather. You don't have to carry his anger any more than I have to carry his curse. Understanding dawned in Marcus's eyes. The curse had been feeding on his family's hatred, just as it fed on Kale's guilt. A cycle of pain that had lasted for generations. "I renounce it," Marcus said suddenly. "By blood, right as Catherine's descendant, I renounce my great-grandfather's curse. Lord Thornwick has suffered enough." The words hit the dark magic like a physical blow. It writhed and screamed, seeking new purchase, but found none. Love surrounded it on all sides. Kale's love for his people, Elara's love for healing, the pack's love for their chosen alpha, even Marcus's newfound understanding. "Now!" Elara shouted. Light exploded from the ritual circle, washing through the hall like cleansing fire. When it faded, the oppressive weight that had hung over Ravenshollow for 3 centuries was gone. Kael rose slowly, feeling truly free for the first time in his long life. Around him, pack members touched their necks in wonder. The invisible chains that had bound them to his life force were broken, replaced by bonds of choice and loyalty. Marcus lowered his sword, his soldiers looking to him for direction. "What happens now?" "Now," Kael said, offering his hand. "We build something better than our ancestors managed. Peace, if you're willing." The young commander clasped his hand firmly. I think Catherine would have liked that. As dawn broke over Ravenshollow, former enemies worked together to tend the wounded and repair the damage. The curse was broken, but more importantly, the cycle of hatred that had fed it was ending at last. Elara found Kael on the battlements as the sun painted the sky gold. "How does it feel to be free?" He pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against his side. "Like coming home after a very long journey." "Good," she said, smiling up at him. "Because I have news about those bear shifters in the north. Apparently, word of what we did here is spreading. And they're not the only cursed clan asking for help." Kael laughed, the sound echoing across his free lands. "Are you saying we're starting a new career as curse breakers?" "I'm saying love just proved it's stronger than ancient magic. Imagine what we could accomplish if we tried." As they watched the sunrise together, surrounded by pack and allies, Kael felt something he'd almost forgotten: hope for tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after that. Thunder crashed overhead as magical lightning split the sky above Ravenshollow Castle. Inside the great hall, Kael felt his body burning from the inside out. The curse-breaking ritual had begun, but something was going terribly wrong. "The magic is fighting back harder than we expected," Elara shouted over the howling wind that had suddenly filled the closed room. Her hands glowed bright green as she poured her healing power into their joined bond, but sweat dripped down her face from the effort. Marcus Ashford held the counter-curse scroll with shaking fingers. "The words are changing on their own. This isn't what my ancestor wrote." Around them, the wolf pack members dropped to their knees as pain shot through their bodies. Their connection to Kael meant they felt every bit of his agony. Some of the younger wolves started shifting back and forth between human and animal form without control. "Hold on!" Kael gritted his teeth, trying to stay standing as memories flooded his mind. But these weren't his memories. They belonged to the curse itself. He saw the moment Lord Ashford had spoken the binding words 300 years ago, felt the man's rage and grief over his daughter's death. Elara gasped as the same visions hit her through their bond. "Kael, the curse isn't just about punishment. Lord Ashford was trying to bring his daughter back to life by trapping your life force." "That's impossible," Marcus said, but his voice shook with doubt. "Look at the locket!" Elara pointed to where Kael had dropped Catherine's portrait. The painted face was moving, the eyes blinking slowly, as if waking from a long sleep. The pack's second in command, Derek, stumbled forward. "My lord, if Lady Catherine's spirit is bound to the curse, breaking it might destroy her forever. Can you live with that choice?" Kael's heart twisted. Catherine had died because of his mistakes on the battlefield. If her father had found a way to preserve some part of her in the curse, destroying it would be like killing her a second time. "There has to be another way," he said, even as the magic continued tearing through his body like fire. Elara closed her eyes, and reached deeper into her healing gift. Wait, I can feel her. She's not trapped. She's tired. 300 years of holding the curse together has worn her spirit thin. Through the magical chaos, a soft voice whispered, "Let me go, Kale. I was never meant to live this long." Catherine's spirit appeared as a faint outline near her portrait. She looked exactly as she had in life, but her edges were blurry, like morning mist. "I'm sorry," Kale said, his voice breaking. "I failed you. I got you killed." "No," Catherine's ghost shook her head sadly. "I chose to follow you into battle. I knew the risks, but my father couldn't accept my death, so he bound my spirit to his curse. I've been watching over you all these years, waiting for someone who could set us both free." She looked at Alara with grateful eyes. "You love him the way I never could. You see his strength where I only saw his guilt. You can heal what I never had the power to fix." The magical storm around them began to calm as Catherine's spirit grew brighter. "But you have to choose together. The curse can only be broken by love that's freely given and received. Not guilt, not duty, just pure love." Alara squeezed Kale's hands tighter. "I choose you. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because you're brave and kind, and you've spent 300 years protecting others." "And I choose you," Kale replied, feeling truth ring in his words. "Not to escape the curse, but because you make me want to be better than I am." As they spoke their choices aloud, the curse began unraveling like a rope coming apart. The pain in Kale's body shifted, becoming something lighter. Around them, the pack members straightened as their bonds changed from chains into freely chosen connections. But the magic wasn't finished. As the old curse broke apart, it released all the power Lord Ashford had poured into it 3 centuries ago. That much magical energy had to go somewhere. "It's going to explode outward," Derek warned. "The whole castle could be destroyed." Catherine's spirit moved closer to the center of the ritual. "I can contain it, but only if you trust me completely." Without hesitation, Kale and Alara both nodded. Catherine smiled, the first real smile Kale had seen from her in 300 years. "Then let go of your guilt, Kyle. Let go of your fear, Alara. Love isn't about holding on so tight you can't breathe. Sometimes it's about having faith that letting go won't mean losing everything." As one, Kale and Alara released their grip on the magic they'd been fighting to control. The curse energy swirled around Catherine's spirit, and she absorbed it into herself like sunlight soaking into water. "Thank you," she whispered, as her form began to glow brighter and brighter. "Now I can finally rest." Catherine's spirit dissolved into thousands of tiny lights that floated around the room like fireflies. Each light touched a pack member, healing old wounds and erasing the magical chains that had bound them. When the lights reached Kale and Alara, they felt the last traces of the curse melt away. The thunder stopped. The magical wind died down. In the sudden quiet, they could hear birds singing outside as if celebrating the dawn of a new day. Marcus dropped the counter-curse scroll, which crumbled into dust. "It's over. The curse is really gone." Kale looked around at his pack, his family, and saw them standing tall and proud instead of bent under invisible chains. For the first time in 3 centuries, they were free to choose their own paths. "We did it," Alara said softly, then louder with growing joy. "We actually did it." The pack erupted into howls of celebration that could be heard for miles. Some shifted into wolf form and raced around the great hall, while others laughed and cried and hugged each other. But even in his happiness, Kyle felt a new kind of fear creeping in. They were free now. But what did that mean? Would his pack still want to stay with him if they didn't have to? Would Alara still love him when he wasn't a mysterious cursed lord, but just a man trying to figure out his place in the world? As if reading his thoughts, Derek approached with a grin. "Don't look so worried, my lord. We're not going anywhere. This pack chose you long before any curse forced us to stay." Alara took Kale's hand and pointed toward the window, where the first rays of true dawn were breaking through the clouds. Come on, let's go see what freedom looks like. 2 years after the curse broke, Elara woke up to the sound of her daughter's laughter echoing through Ravenshallow's halls. Little Luna had inherited both her parents' gifts. She could shift into a tiny wolf pup, and her touch could heal small cuts and scrapes. "Mama, Papa's teaching the new students how to howl!" Luna burst into their bedroom, her copper hair wild with excitement. Elara smiled as she got dressed. The castle had become a training ground for young people with magical gifts. Kale taught them control and discipline, while Elara showed them how to use their powers for healing. It wasn't the life either of them had planned, but it felt right. Outside in the courtyard, she found Kale surrounded by a dozen teenagers, some who could shift into various animals, others with different magical talents. He was demonstrating the proper way to communicate through wolf call. "The key is emotion, not just sound," he explained patiently, as a young bear shifter attempted a howl that came out more like a roar. "You're trying to tell your packmates where you are and that you're safe. Think about that feeling before you make the sound." Watching him work with the students, Elara felt her heart warm. The guilt and loneliness that had weighed him down for so long were gone, replaced by purpose and joy. He'd found a new way to protect people, not by carrying their burdens alone, but by teaching them to be strong themselves. "Aunt Elara!" a familiar voice called out. She turned to see Marcus Ashford riding through the castle gates, but he wasn't alone. Behind him came a group of travel-worn people, who moved with the careful grace of predators, trying to look harmless. "The Northern Bear Clan?" she asked, remembering the letter they'd received months ago. Marcus nodded as he dismounted. "They've traveled for weeks to get here. Their curse is different from what you dealt with. It affects their ability to control their shifts during strong emotions. 3 of their young ones have been stuck in bear form for over a year." The leader of the Bear Clan stepped forward, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and kind but tired eyes. "I'm Elena Ironwood. We've heard what you did here, how you broke an ancient curse with love and teamwork. Our clan has suffered for generations. Can you help us?" Kale and Elara exchanged glances, having a whole conversation without words, the way couples do. They'd built a good life here at Ravenshollow, but there were others out there still trapped by old magic. "We'll try," Elara said finally, "but we'll need to understand your curse completely before we can help break it." "There's something else," Marcus added quietly. "While traveling here, we heard rumors about a dragon lord in the eastern mountains who's been stealing magical children. The local villages are terrified." Luna, who had been playing nearby, perked up at the word dragon. "Dragons are real?" "Very real, little one," Elena said with a sad smile. "And not all of them are friendly to our kind." As the day went on, more details emerged. The Bear Clan's curse was tied to their ancestors' anger. They'd been warriors who couldn't let go of old battles, and their rage had twisted their magic. The Dragon Lord was apparently collecting young shifters and magic users for unknown purposes. That evening, as Elara tucked Luna into bed, her daughter asked, "Are we going to help the bear people?" "What do you think we should do?" Elara asked, curious about her daughter's opinion. Luna considered seriously, the way children do when they know they're being asked something important. "Papa always says we protect family, and if they came all this way asking for help, maybe they're family too now." "Smart girl." Elara kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the scent of innocence and magic that always surrounded Luna. "You're right. Family isn't just who you're born to, it's who you choose to love and protect." Later that night, Elara found Kale on their favorite balcony, looking out over the moonlit forest where some of the pack ran in their wolf forms. Even free from the curse, many still preferred to spend their nights as wolves, enjoying the simple pleasure of hunting and running together. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, settling beside him. "I'm thinking about how much has changed," he replied, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. 2 years ago, I was afraid to hope for anything. Now we have Luna. We have this school. We have a real future stretching out ahead of us. And now we're considering leaving all that to help strangers, Elara pointed out gently. Are you having second thoughts? She leaned into his warmth, considering. Not about helping them, but I am thinking about Luna. She's still so young, and traveling to help break curses isn't exactly safe. Derek offered to watch her if we decide to go, Kale said. The pack would protect her with their lives. I know they would. It's not that I don't trust them, Elara sighed. I guess I'm finally understanding what you felt all those years. The weight of being responsible for others' safety and happiness. Kale turned to face her fully. The difference is, you don't have to carry that weight alone anymore. We're partners now. Whatever we decide together. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars and listening to the distant sounds of their unusual but happy community. Students practiced their shifting in the safe spaces Kale had created. Night shift healers tended to the herb gardens Elara had planted. Everyone had found their place and purpose. What does your healer's instinct tell you? Kale asked eventually. Elara closed her eyes and reached out with her gift, feeling for the currents of need and pain that always called to her. The Bear Clan's suffering runs deep. And there's something dark growing in the east. Not just the Dragon Lord, but something bigger, like a storm that hasn't broken yet. And our duty is to the people who need us most. She opened her eyes and met his gaze steadily. Luna will be safe here, and she'll understand why we have to go. Besides, the Bear Clan has children too. What if one of them were our daughter? Trapped and scared. Kale's smile was proud and a little sad. When did you become the brave one in this relationship? I learned from the best, Elara replied, kissing him softly. So we're really going to do this? Leave our comfortable life to go fight unknown curses? And possibly an evil dragon? Apparently so. He laughed, the sound carrying joy and anticipation, instead of the bitter humor she remembered from their early days. Though I have to admit, after 300 years of staying in one place, the idea of an adventure sounds pretty appealing. Just promise me something, Elara said, taking his hands in hers. Anything. Whatever we face out there, we face it together. No more trying to protect everyone by taking all the risks yourself. Promise, he agreed solemnly, then grinned. Besides, someone needs to watch your back while you're busy saving the world. As they headed back inside to plan their next great adventure, neither of them noticed the shooting star that blazed across the sky above Ravenshallow, or the way it seemed to pause and change direction, as if something had taken notice of their decision. In the morning, they would begin preparing for a journey that would test their love and their newfound freedom in ways they couldn't imagine. But tonight, they were simply Kale and Elara, parents and partners, ready to write the next chapter of their story together. The curse was broken, the pack was free, and love had proven stronger than ancient magic. But somewhere in the eastern mountains, a dragon waited with plans of his own, and the real adventure was just beginning.